Oh, bullocks. Those were not the words Tarak was expecting to hear moments about after being stabbed in the chest by a phantasmal image of Robert, but such was the way of things. Opening his eyes, Tarak found himself in an endless plain, with stars, galaxies, and other celestial bodies hanging in the sky. The ground below him was solid, but chalky, almost like solid sand. Directly in front of him, he saw people, of all shapes and sizes, each of them being directed into a neat queue by other taller people, some of them glowing with magical energy. Most complied. Some resisted being forced to line up, and those who resisted simply disappeared. Looking behind him, Tarak saw the source of the noise. He was humanoid, though nary a hair over 2 feet tall. The figure had pointed ears, a massive amount of hair, and a shield emblazoned with the symbol of Sarenrae. Though perhaps the most notable of his features was the fact that the color on his body seemed missing. The man wore vibrant colored armor, but a full quarter of the color of his plate, and indeed the color on his skin, was simply missing, replaced by a dull black and white tone. This did not seem to bother the miniature man a whole lot, as he seemed to pace around, looking up and towards the line of people in front of him. Oh, fuck. The one day I'm too full of myself to prepare a death ward spell. Standing in front of the two of them, however, was a second humanoid, with brown hair, a simple smiling face. This one was dressed in simple robes, and looked more like a librarian. The most striking feature about them, however, was that they simply appeared to lack legs, their bodies simply dissolving into a light mist after their torso, a mist they slowly hovered on. Tarak frowned, looking down at himself to check out his own body and his spirit. Afterwards, he looked towards the larger figures, unsure of what to make of them, before cautiously reaching out a hand to each. He looked exactly as he remembered himself to look. Heck, he might even look even better. No cuts or scrapes to speak of. And he felt pretty relaxed as well, not a single kink in his back or in his armor. The first to respond to Tarek's advance was the 2 foot tall figure next to him. As Tarak extended a hand out to the gnome, he suddenly stopped cursing to himself and turned, eyes wide, and drew a mace, before looking shocked towards Tarak and sheathing it. Oh, terribly sorry, Mr. Orc. Force of habit. It's fine. I'm used to it from others of a pious nature. Tarak felt for what holy symbol he should have and presented it. He smiled solemnly before looking around. Is this the boneyard? I heard you mentioned Death Ward and, The gnome responded. Henry Canto of Ironforge of the River Kingdoms, he responded. Though if you are correct in that postulation, I don't think that matters much anymore. At this point, the third figure responded. The two of you are indeed in the boneyard, though you are not to receive judgment quite yet. The Dawnflower has need of his servants. Henry looked towards the figure addressing the two of them. Is that so? Well, color me impressed. I wasn't aware that Sarenrae even paid much attention to our little kingdom much anymore. The figure responded. Sarenrae's gaze upon you is exactly why she has requested both of your souls. Tarak responded, I think this makes this the second time I've been here, though it was more of a boomerang the first time. He scratched at his stubble for a bit. I'm surprised, though, looking towards the robed figure. We were requested? I know some people have been lucky, but why us? And who are you? Henry looked at Tarak with surprise. Really now, I've died as well once. A long, long time ago, but I was resurrected. Resurrected myself. Had to deal with some interesting circumstances for a week or so. Drew, it's nothing but trouble, those nature types. As the angel looked towards the two of them, Tarak felt the name Gwyneth of the Dawnflower enter his mind. And that is precisely why. Both of you have a unique experience with the different forms of death. on both sides of the veil. As a result, your expertise is required in rendering judgment upon a soul 200 years in the making. Oh, well then, I'll help however I can, if that's what the Dawnflower needs of us. Sarenrae does not wish to force, however, only offer. The two of you have lived long, full lives. As a result, she has authorized me to offer an incentive. Should you accept, Phasmara shall intercede on your behalf. Not immediately, but in time. Alternatively, the two of you may simply wish to enjoy your afterlife. Henry frowned. No, really, but why us? Are we the only two clerics of Sarenrae to die this month? This day, even? Not necessarily, answered the angel. But the two of you have unique life experiences to assist Phasmara and Sarenrae in this case. Life experience? What's a mortal to a deity? You shall see at the trial. Trial? What is this, Abadar? I remain unconvinced. Tarak rubbed his holy symbol with thought, thinking of all he's done, all that he's been through, the people he'd hurt, healed, and helped and ignored, of the party, and of his family. He let out a small sigh. I want to help if I can, even if my time is finished on the mortal plane. If I can aid, I shall. Though, I must ask, Gwyneth, do you know what became of my allies? The ones who were fighting beside me when I was slain? Gwyneth answered. Yuzjin defeated the Orcish mage, and the group of them rescued the Hell Knights. The group was ambushed, but currently, all survive. Tarak nodded with a soft smile. That's good. Hope they remain well. Turning to Henry, Gwyneth spoke. Sylvia killed the Dryad who killed you, and retreated out of the caves at your body, and attempted to retreat out of the dungeon. Ulamar used his tower shield to buy time for Sylvia and Locke to escape with your corpse, though he was eventually cut down by the centaurs. Henry's gaze fell upon the angel, and his gaze went from surprise to shock to anger. Belend! I needed him! Fucking centaurs! Ulanar was the only person I knew capable of resurrection as well. Fuck. Tarak reached out and put a hand on Henry's shoulder, attempting to give him a form of comfort. I'm sorry for that. Hopefully there's someone they can find to aid you. I'm not sure there was anyone left of my own group to have such capacity, so I know how you feel. Hopefully your Ulamar is at rest. Fuck. Well, I suppose Graves was right. Going after those centaurs was suicide. The Henry turned towards Gwyneth. You're telling me if I help my former deity, she's willing to forgive everything and restore the two of us to life? Yes. All right, well, given my options, as much as I was looking forward to finally being rid of this, and he gestured to his black and whiteness, I suppose I could use a few more years back in the land of the living. Not like I have much to lose from cooking this up. It'll give us a good story, at least. Neither of you will remember your time here. Ah, tits. Tarak frowned a bit, looking between Gwyneth and Henry. I see. Well, if that's the case, then, thank you for helping with this. I hope I'll be able to come with you with good tales someday. And Henry, if we do return, may Sarenrae lead the way so we might meet better on, or in better circumstances with stories to share. And with that, a golden light seemed to emanate from Gwyneth, and suddenly the two of them found themselves in an altogether different room. The two of them found themselves sitting in a nicely furnished office. It was fairly well furnished with fruit, beds, a number of chairs, quills, ink pens, and all manner of other supplies. The chairs, of course, were quite literally heavenly, and upon the desk in front of them was a piece of paper, the first of which was perhaps the most imposing, a drawing of the multiverse. As Tarak scanned his eyes across the plains, he felt his eyes being tugged toward one of the drawings marked Outer Plains, as if he could put an X next to one of them. His concentration was broken as Henry walked over to him. Heavy business, isn't it? When did we mortals become judges of souls? Mortals have always had a sense to judge others. I fell for such folly to think of myself, so this is strange. Your companion, or Tarek's companion, pulled up a chair alongside him. Magically, the desk followed Henry. Well, since neither of us is going to remember any of this, I suppose it's time for introductions, eh? Or shall we focus on the work at hand? Introductions are nice, even if we shall not remember this. Though I'm not sure how long we have to handle this, or what other information will need to be presented, but, who first? Sorry, I'm always awkward about conversations. Well, you clearly haven't been a cleric as long as I have. Time does not matter much to the deities. We'll only be here for a few seconds real time, though we can't tell how long those seconds will be to our warped perceptions. Yes, you caught me there. I've only had magic for a little over a year now. I became an acolyte when I was 15, an inquisitor at 21? My head's a bit fuzzy. If I had been 20 or turned 21, it's 4-ish years ago. Henry looked at Tarak with a smile on his face. 152. Mostly loyal to Sarenrae for most of them. Been a bit rocky the last decade. He gestures again to his black and white skin. Always expected that dude me in. Never expected to get hit in the face with a slay living. But that's my own tomfoolery. I see. I'm not entirely sure what it was that did me in. One moment I was checking on some hostages. Making sure they were alive. The next, I was on my family farm, and my father was attacking me again. Tarak sank a bit as the words were finally being let out. I'd honestly thought I had started to move past it, but whatever killed me brought it back. Sorry, he shook his head and tried to stay composed. What exactly is your condition, by the way? I'm a bit of my group's medic, and I've never really seen anything like that. Oh, I was in a quite similar bind, spoke Henry, ignoring his question for now. We were responding to a call of reinforcements from Gunal to take out some druids and dryads who were causing some scuffles for my subjects. Didn't think too much of it. Then boom! Boneyard. Oh, have you never met an old gnome before? Tarak shook his head. I've heard of gnomes, but you're the first I've ever met. Really now? Fair enough. I don't normally talk about this outside my own circles, but given that neither of us is going to remember any of this, it's called bleaching. We gnomes are immortal. Or rather, we're supposed to be. We live off of excitement and new experiences. The more joy and excitement, the brighter a gnome becomes. However, no joy can last forever. Eventually, things become less exciting. What was once fun becomes forced. Things get boring, and you become more apathetic, and, well... Henry held up his white and black hand, and you see that the draining of color had now engulfed another one of his fingers. That's why you never see a gnome do the same thing twice. It's literally deadly. We don't like talking about it for quite obvious reasons. That's why I came to the River Kingdoms. Endless excitement, or so I thought. As it turned out, ruling involves a lot of bureaucracy. I see. Wow. Doing something twice, that's uncertainty in a fair bit, I think. Meaning you can try something and get a different action through it. Have you ever drove down a clock tower for someone? I did that a few months back. Never thought I would, but it's something to care about as I fell. I just jumped to catch him. Though I know a second jump like that is much less likely. Oh, believe me, there's an entire genre of literature for staving off the bleach thing. I always like mixing things up, but you can only punch the Fae in the face so many different times. And dove off a clock tower. Where did you say you were from again? I'm from Sandpoint in Varsnia. My group was climbing a clock tower in Magnamar. We encountered some strange snake woman near the top. Even found my twin brother. Oh, before that, the stairs began to collapse, and my friend Caius lost his footing. So I jumped. We were 80 or so feet in the air. The knowledge of a spell that Sarenrae allowed me to use, I went as far as I could to slow the fall. Really now, that sounds like quite the story. Might I ask why you were climbing a clock tower in search of a snake woman? Well, we don't know what she was. All we know she was connected to a series of murderers in a cult we were investigating. There was a grave knight named James who we dispatched, and someone else that was at the clock tower. And Tarak basically explains the entire campaign up to this point to Henry. Henry listened to Tarak's story with rapt attention, and of course asked the orc plenty of questions. Soon, even without him realizing it, hours had passed. And as Tarak told his story, however, he noticed the most peculiar thing. He saw color returning to Henry's hand, and the bleachling slowly reverse as you told the gnome the tales of his adventures. Tarak smiled a bit, and as he noted that and continued his tale, the smile never wavering, even through the harshest parts of his tale between confronting Nualia and his interactions with both Robert and Aldrin. Henry listened to Tarak's story intensely. By the time he began to mention the circumstances of his death, however, the gnome held up a hand to avoid a needless repeat of his own trauma. I've heard well enough. You've certainly lived quite the full life, Mr. Tarak of Sandpoint. Were this any other circumstance, I would invite you to my court to serve as my advisor in matters of state. However, I have only tragedy to look forward to, given our current predicament. Well, maybe the gods will sway you away from tragedy. We can only guess once we finish here. Would you like to share your tale as well? I know I won't remember it from what Gwyneth said, but it can't hurt. I'm afraid it's nowhere near terribly as exciting. My family's from Galt, and I was born right before everything went to shit. Galt went from just another stable monarchy to a people's anarchy, and you can probably imagine what those revolutionaries thought of us high society folks. Didn't matter, our family had nothing to do with the Chilaxians and their devil worship. We had money, and that was enough to piss off the rabble. I have guillotines that can steal your soul in Galt. Oh, by Sarenrae, of course we had to flee. What choice did we have? We made our way to the River Kingdoms, stayed in Patax for a few decades. Far too stuffy for my taste. However, the thing about the River Kingdoms is that the politics is a fairly loose confederation anyway. The only thing uniting a lot of these settlements is a strong hand. So I thought I'd try my hand at rulership. Killed a bandit king. Took over the dump. Been trying to make it a better place for everyone. I won't boast of my political accomplishments. I like to imagine I've made the lives of my subjects in Ironforge a better place. Though with both me and Ulinar dead, it's just a matter of time before some up-and-coming bandit rips my kingdom to shreds. Hopefully things won't go sour like that for your people. It sounds like you've done quite a bit in your years. I'd like to think so. We were planning on building a printing house on the border with Patax with some of the money we've been getting from taking out all the centaur tribes who want to burn Ironforge to the ground. Indeed, that's what I was going to spend most of the money from my current expedition on until, well, fate had other plans for us. The money can still be put to good use, I'm sure. They had your body. Surely you'll be honored for that, at least, helping your people, even as it led to this. Here's hoping. Didn't really have a whole lot of time for writing wills or other formal stuff when I was ruling. You don't really think about it until it happens, you know? I was so full of myself. Hey, I can understand. I'm on the same manner of existing, and I ended up leaving several others behind in various states of injury. I can hope they would borrow the circular wand I had, and the paladin we met, Barwick, is willing to provide medical aid with me gone, but between them and my family, there's things I could have done or said that this happened, but I never did. Indeed. The gnome frowned in sadness along Tarak, though as he did so, you saw the black and white upon his skin slowly begin creeping up his finger again. As soon as the gnome noticed this, however, his demeanor immediately shifted to a massive smile, however. But no sense in worrying about that now. Can't change the past. Besides, you and I have a ticket back, apparently, if the angel whom has abducted us is to be believed, at least. The gnome shuffled through the papers on his desk. You know anything about this Dina character? I just hope things haven't gone horribly wrong in my absence. They are a chaotic bunch. As for Dina, as Tarak began to read through the papers to get a better note on his case, and opening up the notes, Tarak found quite the interesting story. End of part 1.